Welcome back, everybody. Bro Sanchez speaking. Today we're going to be picking up on part 2 of a series that I started a while back on Tupac, Michael Jackson. Basically a bunch of celebrities that had one thing in common. They all were at one point very famous and very influential on a very massive scale. When we talked previously about Tupac and now we're dealing with Michael Jackson, we know that we see these parallels between these brothers where, yeah, they serve the elite's agenda on one hand as far as making them millions of money and flooding their media with hot news and hot music. We know how that go. But there's another side to it all. You see, there's a lot of celebrities that get in too deep. Me personally, I truly believe that every celeb, every person that's in some type of high position on that status is connected in some type of way by a secret society or sorority or fraternity. They are connected to some type of group. I don't think that Tupac and Michael Jackson was any different. Now, if you haven't saw my previous video on this subject as it concerns Tupac, then check that out, okay? Because that breaks the ground for what we're gonna be going into right now. So we all know that when we deal with Michael Jackson, there's a lot of things he knew. We also know that he ended up owning half of Sony, which was one big reason they wanted him dead. And also the icing it on the cake why they had to go ahead and get rid of him is because of not only that Sony deal, but the fact that Michael Jackson knew a hell of a lot and was gonna start speaking out about it, as we're gonna prove in this video. Now, what exactly did Michael Jackson know? Ladies and gentlemen, I've proven so many times on this channel that a lot of your rock and roll artists and different singers and celebrities know about flat earth cosmology, and that's what they're hiding from us in plain sight. Michael Jackson is no different. Not only was Michael Jackson aware of the flat earth truth, but he was going to start opening his mouth about it. And to a certain extent, he opened his mouth about it and leaked that truth on so much of his artwork. As you can see in front of you in so many of his videos, we can see flat earth parallels and messages that he had against the globe. So pay attention to the footage in front of you, because this is from one of his videos where we can see he clearly was aware of the ancestors' cosmology and the enclosed earth plane. Michael Jackson was aware of the cosmology of Nut and Geb. He was aware of the cosmology of the Dogon. All of these cosmologies parallel each other, and they have the Great Mother at the center, and she's represented in so many ways, as I've been telling you guys in so many videos. Just to keep this video brief, we know that the mother is at the center of the cosmos when we deal with the ancients, and often her arms is raised. She's also represented as the tree of life, and that can also be Ma'at. Like I said, explore this channel and check out my previous videos and my Mother Goddess playlist, and catch up on the information I've been putting out about the Bee Goddess, which is one way that we see the celebrities paying homage to the Great Mother. Now, there are so many aspects of the Great Mother, but I'm trying to reveal to you that Michael Jackson was aware of the symbolism that I became aware of when I stumbled across ancient cosmology. This symbolism is one code, though it's expressed in many symbols, and those with eyes to see will see the one code in the many symbols. Others will fall victim of segmenting the symbols and falling victim to all of the mythology and poetry that's been given to throw us off from the true meaning of the symbols. But all of the ancients were saying the same thing, that we were in an enclosed cosmic egg, and at the center was a great mother. Now, that great mother is not nothing in pseudoscience or some deity outside of yourself. It's just the essence or the primordial source. And the best way to simplify it is Mother Nature. You see, nature expresses itself in a feminine way. And you have to notice when we deal with Michael Jackson, we know that the feminine energy is expressed in the moon goddesses, and that the moon is directly related to the divine feminine energy. And when we talk about the moon and as it relates to Michael Jackson, that's one thing he associated himself with, is moon symbolism, One of his most famous dances that he was known for was the moon walk. Remember that it's the moon that was supposedly become the stage that would unveil the true identity of the earth, according to NASA, but we found out that their original moonwalks were deception. I just find it very interesting that one of his most popular dance moves was called the moonwalk in a world that's dominated by sun worshipers, and coming from someone who's in an industry that's surrounded by male sun worshipers when we deal with secret societies. Now, Michael Jackson was born into the secret society. Don't you doubt that one bit, that his father, I believe, was in some way connected. I do believe Joe was connected, and this is just my belief, although I'ma still shout him out. I never met him in person, but my big brother actually had the opportunity to meet him here in Vegas, bumped into him. But just to stay on subject, I really believe that eventually the Jackson family was connected some kind of way. I just truly believe that, because when you look at young Mike, he was flashing symbols all over the place. I mean, we know that Joe Jackson was very money hungry and that he beat them boys and he took away their childhood, and we knew there was really no limits to what Joe would do for that money and to make that music dream manifest. So if he wasn't connected, you know he eventually got connected when them young Jackson boys started getting around all that rich royalty and money. Because if you look at the movies, you can see, man, that these guys was on a level that you can't even fathom. At a young age, Michael was around millions and millions of dollars and a type of lifestyle that you can only imagine. So when he got old and had theme parks and zoos and houses, mansions with 50 rooms, there was really nothing new. Now, his childhood was humble coming out of Gary, but before Michael Jackson was even 10 years old, they had already struck big with the music. So again, he knew what success tasted like at a very young age. With that being said, we know that when you enter this realm, there's a lot of oaths being taken. The parents who take these oaths actually put their children at stake because, for example, in young Michael's case, he didn't know no better. Now, I talked to a lot of Masons. They say that they became Masons just because their father would take them to the lodge when they was little and they just grew up into it. So you got to keep in mind that Masons are a nation within a nation. They've been around for thousands of years, and there are millions of these guys working together. And do you know how much you can accomplish with millions of guys working together with one plan? And also they have the luxury of being in secrecy. They have the luxury of controlling every venue of society via media, religion, you name it. They control the minds of the masses so that when you try to reveal who they are, the very people they control will argue in their defense, not even knowing it, because they're so bamboozled. So saying all that to say that the Masons is deep. A lot of people are born into it and some people join into it, okay? But once you into it, it's high. It's a very secretive group. You pledge with your life. You pledge with the life of your family members, with your loved ones, okay? There are many sacrifices being made. You're told when you enter these things that if you break the rules, that certain penalties is death. We see a lot of these people start speaking out and they get mild punishments, and if they keep it going, they mysteriously vanish and die. We see this all the time. Now, some of these Masons that die, I do believe some of them retire and go to other continents. I don't want to get into the hidden land here. Let's stick with Michael Jackson here, because basically telling you that he was initiated as a young child before he was able to really understand what it was all about. And that's what they do. And a lot of people end up being great Masons that way, because children will stay loyal to something that you put them in at a young age. So if Joe Jackson introduced him to all this stuff at a young age, he would be loyal for most of his life. And we see that during the teenage Michael. He's the king of pop and he's at his prime. as Mike started getting old, we see that Mike started becoming what we would call more soft-spoken, what some would say more feminine. Okay, he bleached his skin and had the hair changes and all of that. His voice became very feminine. I do think this is some type of symbolic ritual. I do think that Mike was speaking to us in a weird way. A lot of people may crucify me for this, but with the feminine behavior, what he transformed to in the soft-speaking voice, that was when Mike became an idol of worship. There are statues erected all over where people worship him to this day. Okay, it's some about the image that he was portraying. And also it's very important to keep in mind when we deal with how he bleached his face white and everything. You know, you can kind of link that to all of the ancient tribal people who for many, many years been putting on white ash over their face in honor of who? The moon goddesses. So here's pictures in front of you of the Babanaga tribe, and they're one tribe who still honor the moon goddess to this day. They carry the trident in honor of the mother goddess Kali. You will see them with the white ash or the white clay upon their faces in honor of the moon goddess. Also, you will see from the Ashanti tribe that they are also another ancient tribe that practice these same rituals as well as many others in some way. And when you say Ashanti, the root word of it is ash, dealing with this custom of putting the white ash on the face. So this even goes to popular celebrity names like Ashanti, which is a common African female name dealing with that moon, divine, feminine energy. So when we talk about Michael Jackson with the white face and the feminine voice and the moon walk, to me, everything is symbolic, and there's always a message being spoken that's not being said with the mouth, but symbolic. And it's right in front of you. And what I try to do is open your eyes to that. And a lot of that is going to be dealing with sacred geometry as we go on into the future, because I haven't even scratched the surface yet. Now we're going to move on, guys, and we're going to reveal some more things about Michael Jackson as we continue my theory on Tupac, Michael Jackson, even John F. Kennedy, and many more celebrities that I'll briefly touch on in this part 2. So one thing I want to reiterate on is when you have the type celebrities like Tupac and Michael Jackson that people are literally worshiping, and that, you know, these people have enough people on their knees worshiping them that outnumber armies. And the difference between these type of armies that we see with celebrities like Tupac and Michael Jackson, they are worldwide, whereas the armies of the world are just limited to their country. We're talking about one person who can go all over the world and get love and have control and have things happen on the ground based on who they are. Okay, this is very powerful people. And when you have people this powerful, you know the elite will try to control these people. And you don't get to be this powerful without being connected some kind of way. So again, the young Michael Jackson was initiated, okay, into this society. One of these societies, these cult societies. Also, we know that Tupac was, and that he turned on them, which leads to something I want to point out, that a lot of your celebrities, like I said, are born into these societies. Every now and then you have one of these guys that grow a heart, and they just can't hold this truth from the masses. So you got to think about the type of celebrities throughout history who have been known to rebel against those societies that empowered them. See, in their young lives, they enjoying all of this money. You got all of these millions. You done screwed all of the women you think you want to screw. You got mansions all over the place. You got millions and millions in the bank, but yet no one will let you spend them, because everywhere you go, they giving you stuff for free. You done been to every 7 continents that they will let us go to more than once. And really, like, what else left to do? A lot of celebrities like Tupac and Michael Jackson, who form deep bonds with the people, end up rebelling after you've done everything there is to do, because what keep people loyal is the money and the material things. But when you talk about a person like Michael Jackson, for example, who had all of this stuff since he was a child, like I said, what's left to do? You think about the bond that he had formed with his fans is rivals anything we will ever see again in history between artists and fan. The way these people's fans dealt with them when we talk about Tupac and Michael Jackson. Now, when we talk about Michael Jackson, he had formed a very deep bond with his fans. He started speaking out. His love for the people started to overweigh his loyalty for whatever he was a part of. And a lot of these celebrities know they're gonna die. They tell you that before it happened, and their hearts just grow. They already dead before they even start rebelling because they've done everything it is to do, and the money's just not working anymore. They're tired of lying to the people. They're seeing people who really love them at these shows, and they can't do it anymore. They guilt start fucking with them. Their consciousness kicks in, and it's like every day after that of holding this lie from those people becomes torture. So a lot of these guys commit suicide, and they don't mind dying telling the truth. And the elite know that. They say, we got one that's gonna pop. We gotta get rid of them quick. We got one that's gonna pop. You know, that's his emotions have got in the way of the mission. So this is why they want to create humans with no emotions, because those make better soldiers. Someone that's gonna pull the trigger and not think about it. Okay, if they can take the conscience out of a human, that is the judgment of the soul. People, think about that. That is the ma'at within you, that voice within you that lets you know when you're doing wrong, and it's an uneasy feeling there to stop you. But when that goes away, you create a barbaric world that we see today, where people can kill and then go have a cigarette and a coffee afterwards. We know that celebrities like Tupac and Michael Jackson spoke out for the people, and they spoke out against those powers that's sending our children to war to die for corporations, and to keep the people divided and conquered in ignorance, kill each other while they us at the same time with pause, miseducate our children and maintain this slave system by taxing the hell out of us, giving us a bunch of programs that don't benefit us, just keep us further away from the truth of our human origins and who we are. We got to understand that people like Michael Jackson and Tupac was in the way of the New World Order. Now, Brother Sanchez, how do you know what Michael Jackson knew? And what did Michael Jackson know, Brother Sanchez? Michael Jackson knew that there was a grand deception and a great trick that has been played on the people, and this thing has been going on for thousands of years. And Michael Jackson knew that the foundation of this deception was all rooted in the origin stories that they've given us about ourselves, which starts in the cosmology. This is why ancient cosmology is very important. This is why it's the most mocked thing on earth and the least researched thing on earth. You think about it, it's very strange that we research everything about the ancients. We spend millions of dollars to undig their ruins, and we have so many groups that worship the ancients. Yet when we bring up the ancient cosmology, which happens to be flat earth cosmology, people turn their noses up. No one would dare entertain it because of the stigma that's been placed on it. But what I'm going to show you here today to further prove my point about Michael Jackson is that he was aware of the ancient cosmology and of the Great Mother. Now, let's check out a couple of pictures just from a couple of celebrities, and we'll start with Michael Jackson. So what you need to know is one of the most earliest ways to draw the cosmos in the ancient form in a two-dimensional way is just the way you see now with this Dogon cosmos, the womb of all worlds. And as you can see, it's simply a circle with a X inside of it, which became the crosshairs of the bull's eye. X marks the spot. Now, this can be done in so many ways to represent the same concept, but what you're looking at means so much in a simplified way. Where you see Amma at the center here, that's the Dogon mother goddess, Mama Amma. And she, just like many other mother goddesses, has the arms raised for victory. And when you think about the Kananga, that's just the form of the Dogon drawing their bee goddess or the mother goddess Amma. You see, Here's some figurines of the Dogon Mother Goddess, and as you can see, she is the Kananga, the six-pointed star, the Merkaba. And this is the very code of creation, the weaving together of everything there is, or what they call string theory. Now, if you look at the symbol of string theory, you can see it's nothing but the Dogon Kananga. This is all dealing with feminine energy and the divine feminine, which is the X chromosome, the original Kananga. So this is not pseudoscience. This is no theoretical stuff. This is real science that's deified by the ancients in a very intricate and beautiful way. The earth can be looked at as the drop box, where souls drop into this plane of existence. And there's an energy, a magnetic energy at the center of this earth circle. All compasses point to it at the North Pole. There is no Santa Claus at the North Pole. All of the ancients had a great mother at the North Pole, which was replaced by patriarchal deities like Santa, which is nothing but Odin, Nimrod, and many sun heliocentric based deities. When you look at their cosmos, the sun is at the center of it all, as opposed to the ancient cosmos had the great mother at the center of our cosmos. The big deception was them taking the North Pole and tilting it, balling the earth up into a void of darkness and making it just a blue speck among many. But the ancients said that the earth was the stage. It was one plane of existence, and there are no recorded ends to the earth. And there are lands that are being hidden by many treaties that I speak of in previous videos. Can't get into them right now. But this earth is said to be an infinite plane by many. The ancients are among that crowd, and we can see parallels among hundreds of ancients with this same cosmology, with the great mother at the center. And over time, you can see that everything was replaced by a heliocentric universe that we in today. Throughout time, this universe has evolved and evolved to suit the lie and to line itself up with reality and look for ways to explain reality in their theoretical form. But their way go against what we actually perceive in reality, the facts. So we accept the theories over those facts. But to get into what Michael Jackson understood was this concept of Earth. X marks the spot being the North Pole, where the magnetic energy is like an umbilical cord feeding this cosmic egg. It's a feminine energy. When we deal with the root word of magnetic, again, it's Ma. When we talk about the Dogon, they're from a place called Mali. And they do have a goddess. They are not a patriarchal group. Our ancestors were matriarchal, all having divine feminine creators at the center of their cosmos, as you can see here. Now, when you see the circle with the X, that's what we're talking about, the bull's eye. That bull is Hathor, became the golden calf in the Bible, and they forbid you to worship that golden calf, which is simply Mother Nature, the sustainer of us all. So they took you away from what's real and got you worshiping what's fake. When we talk about the Kananga, the six-pointed star being the fabric and the string theory, the weaving of the mother, which ties into everything there is, to better understand this concept of the circle with the X. There's many ways you can do this sacred geometry. You can draw a circle, you can put the X and then the line right through it for symbolizing the North Pole, because the X simply marks the spot. Then you draw your line, that's the actual pole, that's a vertical pole going through that spot where those lines intersect, being the X. That goes into the earth. When we talk hollow earth, that's true. Only the earth is not a hollow globe. It's an infinite plane, and there are many hollow worlds under this infinite plane, and many places beneath the soil and life there that was spoken of even by the ancients. Okay, there's life in the deepest parts of the ocean. We understand that there's literally no place you can look in existence and not find life, consciousness. So let's go ahead and get that in our head. When we talk about the fabric of it all and the symbol, if you can look at a symbol that would represent this ever-present force A simple way would be, again, this X with the line through it. And as you can see with this snowflake, we can't escape this. When you outline this, you get the hexagon. Now that symbol became a curse, remember? Anything they want to curse and keep you away from, that's what you want to run right to. Because this the stuff of the ancients. Now this X with the line in it is also what? The Mayan calendar. What they try to tell you is the Mayan calendar is really the Mayan cosmos. All right, don't let them throw you off. This Mayan, so-called Mayan sun calendar is nothing but the Dogon Kananga. Again, Brother Sanchez been telling you video after video, all of the ancients were saying the same thing. They had this same code with many different symbols. So I'm getting you guys familiar with the symbols before we relate them back to Michael. Let's get some more into these symbols. So again, the X with the line and puzzle piece, or this Mayan cosmos, the Kananga, that's Mama Ama, that's the saints anchor. Remember, the anchor of the ship is holy. It's what grounds the ship, all right, and stabilizes the ship during the roughest waves. You got to understand also that the anchor is symbolic of the umbilical cord. And when you say anchor, the root word of it is Ankh. The revered symbol that we call the Ankh comes from the anchor. All right. It's a symbol that comes from the anchor of the ship. Now, when you look at a ship's anchor, you're looking at the coat of arms. Why is it called a coat of arms? Because it all goes back to the mother goddess. Remember those arms? She raised them high for victory. She stretches them wide for balance. And that's when you get Ma'at. In this picture here, you see Beyonce doing a Ma'at ritual. I did a whole video on this. You can check that out because I won't get into it. Basically, I'm going back into what I just told you. X marks the spot. Earth can be looked at as the drop box. The collage you're looking at in front of you gives you an idea of what I'm talking about. So you see your snowflake on the right there. X with the line, or Mama Kali. Remember that Mama Kali with the 4 arms is nothing but a personified version of this same code that's represented again in many symbols. So Mama Kali standing upright with the 4 arms being the Tibetan wheel, the Mayan cosmos, the saint's anchor, what you get for New Orleans Hornets, because you're in a horned net. Remember that the net is Nut, and that the goddess wear the horns, the horn net, or the crowned goddess. It's the same thing. She's the bee goddess, the queen bee. When you talk about the queen bee, okay, let's deal with Beyonce and Jay-Z for a minute, because again, we did say we were going to deal with celebrities. Before we hop back to Michael Jackson, we got to talk about celebrities in general here. And 2 big ones are Beyonce and Jay-Z, so let's deal with them. Again, with Beyonce, you can check out that Ma'at ritual video that I did. Right now, what I'm going to do is show why her name is Beyonce, because her parents are aware of this science that I'm giving to you guys. Anyone that's initiated has this stuff, in my opinion, in my belief, because there's no way you name your daughter Beyonce. Start doing a little research on that name, you'll see that the name Beyonce is also a derivation of the name Bela, which is a variation of the bee goddess in another culture. And I'll be doing videos on Bela and the different bee goddesses, because there's not one bee goddess. There's many different bee goddesses from many different cultures, and they had different names. So, but they all represented the same concept of the North Pole and that divine feminine energy that sustains all. Remember, we say Mother Nature. Remember, every soul comes from a mother and has a belly button to show where we were connected to our mother and being fed through her. And if she would have cut that cord, you would have died. If you look up the term from what we're calling God, you will see that it's anybody with powers over life and death and conception, which would be the woman in the flesh. She's the only being that has power over life and death while it's being conceived. Okay, what she eat can kill the baby. You literally are at her mercy. So you think about what creates heaven and hell, it's the mother. Think about those mothers that's putting these newborn babies in the microwave. Think of the pain of that baby. Even when you say manifest, the root word is ma. Even when you say man, the root word is ma. When you say masculine, the root word is ma, because it all started from her, the masculine and the feminine. And now that's a whole nother video. But just remember, all colors come from the darkness, all right? All colors come from the darkness, and that darkness is the cosmic womb. It existed before the light came on, okay? I get into this darkness in a lot of my videos. One in particular is the Vedic Black Hole Sun series. That's 2 videos, check them out. To get back on this symbolism with these celebrities and Michael Jackson and show y'all what they knew, we're talking about Beyonce, and the pictures in front of you show you her Bee Goddess ritual. So at some concert here, you see she came out dressed as the Queen Bee. And not only that, if this don't make it more blatant for you, she spread her arms open just like the Bee Goddess and made the Ankh, or the Tree of Life, or the Great Mother who sits at the center of all ancient cosmologies. This X with the line is what she's making, and you can see it basically in all things that manifest. So when you outline this X with the line and you get what's called a hexagon, that's also a yoni. Remember, they call it a hexagon, and they say you're hex and you're being cursed. Who was the one cursed in the garden? A woman was the one said to be cursed, and she was desecrated. She is the hexagon. That's why the hexagon is the yoni. The yoni, the divine womb, the divine feminine, was cursed, and the patriarchal deities, heliocentric founded ideologies came out of that garden. Eve died in that Genesis. That was the genesis of heliocentrism in a Christian form, because the early Christians revered the Queen of Heaven, or their version of the Sacred Mother. What you call the Holy Ghost predates Jesus, and you need to stop a minute and think about that. Christians, what you call the Holy Ghost predates Jesus. That Holy Ghost was the Christian Sacred Mother, or Queen of Heaven, which was turned into the dove, okay? And that dove is nothing but ma'at, balance in the scales. It's always represented as that bird. You would see the 2 wings is no different than the scales, or the goddess with her arms spread out. Now what you're looking at now is a Alpha Phi Alpha crest. And it goes to what I'm saying about those arms spread out, that dove, that sacred mother, that bee goddess. Look at the colors, it's black and gold. We know when we talk Old Kingdom Kemet, we talk black and gold. That's all comes from the reverence of the bee goddess. You look at the walls of early Kemet, you will see the bees carved on the wall. When you think Wu-Tang Clan and when you hear them screaming out killer bees, it's not because they just said, hey guys, we want to name ourselves bees. What type of dudes from the ghetto want their mascot to be a damn bee? Okay? It's just weird. You think they just thought of that? No, they know what I know. The sacredness and reverence of the bees. This is not nothing that's not known by a lot of people. You're just not researching the secret, guys. Okay? Because if you look at the Mormon and Christian art here, you can see that they revere the bees, and the bee goddess, what we call the Queen Bee, or the Great Mother. Remember that the Queen Bee sits at the center of the hive, like the Great Mother sits at the center of the cosmos. So when you look at the early Christians, they revered the bee goddess and the Queen of Heaven. Do your research on the Christian Queen of Heaven. You will see that Christians worship the yoni, what we're calling the hex now. Or the X. Remember, the H is silent. It's the X chromosome. It's the yoni. It's the snowflake, the Tibetan wheel. And if you look at this Dogon cosmos, this is handcrafted metal, y'all. Tribal art. This is something you really need to look at and have a respect for. Okay, this is intricate handwork metal that you're looking at from tribal people. And I think you need to have some respect for it. Somebody sat there and worked all that metal. And if you look at all the goddesses surrounding this wheel, because what you're looking at is just what I told you. X marks the spot with the mama at the center. Can't you see her face at the center of this Dogon cosmos? Who said the Dogon didn't have the same cosmology that Brother Sanchez telling you about of Nut and Geb with the mother at the center on a flat plane? Show them this. The ancient ancestors' truth will no longer be held down as long as I'm living. So let's get some more of this. I want you to look at this because, like I said, this is beautiful art that was handcrafted. This metal was hand beaten by our Dogon brothers. You need to understand how much work it takes to hammer that and chisel that and shape this stuff into this intricate stuff. These ain't primitive people. We primitive to them with the way we fucking up the world with our dumb heliocentric, corrupted, brainwashed doctrines. This cosmology takes us away from the creator and puts us on shaky ground where at any given moment cataclysms can happen, because according to these egotistical heliocentric bastards that rule your world, the creator is dumb and man is smarter than the creator, and you foolish humans trust them too because you walk in man-made buildings every day without a fear of them falling down on you, but you walk outside and get man to convince you to have a fear that God gonna have a cataclysm and end all life. The creator ain't dumb like that, and you on a stable founded plane and it's infinite. You see the earth god Geb laid down there looking like he in paradise, and you run around and feel like a fool. Tired of the stupidity. Now I'm giving you something to wake you up here. Remember the sacred geometry. Remember these symbols. A X with a line through it. It became the pausing symbol because you got the X with the head up there. That's nothing but the mother. That pole, that line in the middle ain't nothing but the North Pole. That's Mama Kali. This the Tibetan wheel. This the Dogon cosmos. This Mama Amma. This the Kananga. This the snowflake. This in the middle of a damn cantaloupe. You show me a fruit, I'll show you an X with the line through it. I'll show you this pattern. I'll show you why the bee is sacred, because when you look at the insect, it makes this X with the line through it, or the Tibetan wheel. X marks the spot. Beetles are revered in Kemet as well, the scarab beetles. The bee and the beetle represents the same thing to the ancestors because of their sacred geometry and their relation to the cosmology. I'm showing y'all all this to get familiar with the Kananga, the bee insect, the beetle, the mother goddess who is all of this, okay? The cosmic wheel, the Mayan cosmos. As above, so below. If you look inside of a cantaloupe, you're looking at the microcosm cosmos. Okay, when you look at the human body, it's an X with a line. This is the code I'm giving you. So let's go back to this Alpha Phi Alpha crest here, and what you can see is it's the same thing with the X with the line representing the mother. But when we deal with this, we simply dealing with the bee goddess. Now, again, why is it called a coat of arms? Because it's the arms that cast the tent. It's the arms spread by the bee goddess. When you outline this, you get the coat of arms. So when you outline the bee goddess, you get the shield, the crest. All right, the crest is the cross. All right, it's the bee goddess arms that when you outline it, it makes the shield. When you outline that cross, you get the yoni. You get the diamond. Remember, women are diamonds or dime pieces, and we also give them diamonds. Remember that the diamond is the 10, 10 is Zen. Zen is meditation, going back, closing your eyes, getting back to that darkness, that divine feminine. Remember that you close your eyes to go back to her every night and sleep. So to meditate is to medicate. Also, when we talk about this energy, you can see at the top of your ankh, there's a yoni, representative of the goddess Nut. And she's always at the top. She's the all-seeing eye. Remember that, because night sits behind day. Nothing go behind the night. The darkness is the stage, the background of it all. The light emanates itself from her, just like a mother watching her son shine and grow up on earth. The son will never watch the mother do that. She's the only one from that view, that artist's view. The art on the canvas will never have a view of the artist. And we're talking about the mother, which watches the child grow and not vice versa. So the mother is revered. She's symbolic of the Most High. When you talk Most High, we're not talking the sun, because there's something higher than the sun. It's called the darkness. Remember, if you got on a plane and went up high on a sunny day, once you get above the sun, it'll get nighttime again. Night is Nut. It's the goddess. She hold the night sky within that arch, as you can see here in this picture. All of this is important because we're going to tie it in with these symbols that we see these celebrities associating themselves with. So again, Alpha Phi Alpha was the first black Greek fraternity. It's the father of all other fraternities. Why are their colors black and gold, representing the primordial source, the first of anything dealing with the mother? So their colors are very selective. They did it for a reason, and they are black and gold. And if you look at the name Alpha Phi Alpha, it's basically another way of saying Eve. See, the name Eve deals with as above, so below, just like the Kananga. When you look at how this symbol mirror itself on each side, if you flip it around, it'll still mirror itself no matter how you turn it. So when you say EVE, when you flip that around, you still get EVE, because we're dealing with balance, symbols of balance. Just like when you go back to this X with the line, no matter where you look at it, it mirrors itself on each side, like this hornet. Okay, like this Kananga. All right, familiarize yourself with this, because when you look at this concept, it's done in so many ways. Just like A Phi A is EVE, yin and yang. When you look at Ma'at, and you look at the mother being Ma'at at the center, and each scale on each side, that's balance. So when you look at this A Phi A symbol, each A on each side representative of the scale, and as you can see, the circle with the line being Phi is pi. Remember, pi is another formula dealing with sacred geometry and these cosmological sciences. I went into that in my Angkor Wat video. When you think of a pie, when it's sliced, for example, a pizza, which has the root word pi for this reason, each piece is pulled from the center. When you think of this concept of a circle with the X mark and a spot, you just split it up into 4 slices. This is the simple concept of pi, okay? Pi, which if you look at the earth cosmos and the Dogon cosmos by the ancients, it represents the same thing literally. Everything on earth pulls its energy from the center, just like you cut a pizza and everybody pulling a slice from the center. If you don't use that pizza cutter and cut it each slice all the way to that point in the center, it won't pull. You understand, it won't be a slice. It has to be disconnected, the pull. But each slice is still coming from one pizza. So the idea of disconnection is an illusion, just like the idea of each individual human being separate from that one source is an illusion. Each of you is a slice, but there's still only one pizza. In other words, there's many things exist in this one cosmos, and all of these things are what make up the Most High. You want to know what the Creator looked like, you will have to look at everything in creation. When you look at the bee goddess, there's a lot of sacred geometry going on here. You can see the moon crest on each side making her wings. Now, wings are symbolic and they are revered in all religions based on their connection to the original goddesses. They had wings, or if they didn't have wings, they had horns, or either both. But wings and horns represent the same thing. I go into that in a lot of videos. I don't have time to do it here. I want to get back with Michael Jackson. So you are aware of Alpha Phi Alpha, and that they are aware, probably not every member, but they're flooded with bee goddess colors and symbolism in that fraternity. And as you can see here, the brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha basically doing a Ma'atian ritual, a balancing scale ritual. As you can look at the two brothers in left and right, that's yin and yang. The brother holding up the pharaoh head in the middle would be the representation of the great mother raising her arms. Again, at the middle of the cosmos is the great mother. And on each side would be sun and moon, yin and yang, man and woman. because man and woman come from the mother, the womb man. And remember, when we talk about the cosmos, another name for that is the great womb. That's why you see nothing but female deities. And when you go and research ancient cosmology, especially with Kemet dealing with Nut, or which became night. So mother at the center of the cosmos is what balances sun and moon. If you look at the ancient map in front of you, you can see that mother accompanying the sun and moon represented as that black sun. That's the one that causes eclipses. And you notice that they call those the lunar nodes associated with the moon, the feminine. Again, the great mother balances the scales. The X chromosome creates the Y chromosome. The night creates the day. Basically saying all that to say, when you think of Ma'at, you think that the great mother concept was hijacked by egotistical males who run your world today. And there was never no thing about races. These was groups of men of all different races that established secret societies based on hunting groups. So when you go and research pre-dynastic history that I get into on this channel a lot, please explore from her story to his story. You can see how even the first pharaohs, basically men based on our masculinity and strength, there was never a time where we even thought to overthrow women and rule over the earth. Into the rise of this egotistical male showmanship attitude that rolls at the end of what we call the golden era, when we was kicked out of the garden. Because the big lie that was told was that everything was screwed up when the women bit the apple. But in reality, you will research historical fact and find out that humans left the golden days when men started hunting the animals on earth and fucking up the food chains and ecosystems. All of the animals on earth was once vegetarian, vegan. Everything sustained itself by plant life, water, and sunlight, until we started developing vampire cultures, sun-centered cultures, parasitical cultures. And it's a huge deception that goes deep, all right? And so stay tuned for future videos where I'm gonna dive into that more and be more in the detail and thorough and give full presentations on all of that, because it was not when women bit fruit that we were cursed. It was when men bit the animal. When everyone got a taste for meat, we stopped depending on women gardeners and we start depending on male hunters that rule the world today. The deception is very real. You ever wonder why when people get spiritual and consciousness, one of the first things they say they gonna do is start going back to being vegans? You ever wonder why women stay in the kitchen prepping all the vegetables and the fruits, but the men be on the grill with all the damn meat? It's because it's in our history. This shit been going on since we left the real Garden of Eden or the North Pole, because there is a real tree of life. And I will get into the tree of life in a future video, because the North Pole is real and that's where all humans originated from, as well as the pygmies, the giants, and many more. I'll be getting into that. But to stay on subject, everything was once vegan, vegetarian when women ruled, when we was in the gardening age. You will see that history is split up simply based upon the way people was moving and eating. So you will see that it changed during what's called a hunting and gathering period. But the hunting and gathering period don't mark the beginning. That's the end of the golden era. Because in the beginning, we weren't hunters or gatherers. The earth was fruitful. There were not no wars. There were fruits and plants, and it was abundant. There was fruits and plants you never heard of before. You know how much stuff missing today? If some of those humans came here today, they would say we're in a wasteland. You ever wonder why it seems like it's just not that much to eat, like watermelon, oranges, and out the minutes, like how many more fruits are there on earth? There was so much more here, and there's also other lands with so much more, and they're still abundant, whereas we're living in a wasteland being taught that it's real. It was not always like this. There was no such thing as deserts on earth. I know I'm going all over the place, but I'm giving you the stuff that's so hard for these celebrities to keep in and hold in, and they look for ways to explain it. And you see how many words and hours of videos it take me to explain it just to do it, and people still say you're a nutcase and you sound like a fool. But those who really have eyes to see and ears to hear will get what I'm saying, and those are the select few people who this is for. So Michael Jackson was one of those people, but when you're in too deep and you want to speak the way I'm speaking, the price is your life. And just to show you some of the symbolism, drive it home even deeper what Michael knew. Here is some more Alpha Phi Alpha symbolism. And in this symbol, you can see the crest or the coat of arms with the X at the top or the cross at the top, representing where mother is. At the center where X marks the spot. And you can see this is made in a flat plane with a dome on top of it. You can see on each side is a pharaoh on a throne facing opposite of each other, symbolizing sun and moon, yin and yang. You can see the planetarium behind this dude on the throne with the crest and all of that. You're dealing with cosmology. Again, you can see the colors black and gold, dealing with the bee goddess. It's all cosmology. I'm showing you all this about the bee goddess and the black and gold because what I'm going to show you about Michael Jackson ties into all of this when we talk about the black and gold and the bee goddess and the great mother, which became the dove, the sacred bird above the Mayan tree of life. Here in these Egyptian carving here, you can see the great mother with her hands raised, the kananga. This is the same Dogon concept you see here on the walls of Kemet, all right? The bees were revered in Kemet for that reason. When we talk about the Moors, here's just a collage here to show you a Moorish saint. What is he holding? You can see the sacred bird on his shield. That's nothing but the bee goddess, yin and yang, the serpent goddess, tree of life. Because when you talk about the Garden of Eden with the serpent around the tree, that tree of life, and that serpent was the Aztec serpent goddess, because they had the same parallels that all of the other ancients had. You would see that the serpent goddess had the two serpents coming up, making the crown that would have been the bee goddess's wings. All of this is the same symbolism. Wings and horns are revered in religion or mythology. You got to put all of this stuff together, sync it up, and realize it's one message being told. And don't let the madness of all the different symbols fool you, but rather look at them different and see how they're just all the same, and it's been hidden right in front of your face. This bird on this saint's shield is nothing but the poison symbol, Mama Kali, Adam and Eve, Ma'at, Yin Yang, sun and moon, the same concept of the A5A brothers, because the Moors was aware of this as well. As a matter of fact, the Moors played a huge part in selling the black people out to the New World Order elites who run this whole thing right now. It's deeper than what y'all think. The people who run the world make up all quote unquote races, and the secrets they're hiding are about where we come from and the origins of basically the earth and everything. They're giving us lies and cosmology, but a lot of celebrities knew what I knew and even more. But before they can tell it, of course, they was assassinated. Michael Jackson is one of them. And I'm showing you this symbolism in front of you of the bee goddess, showing you that everyone know about it. She's the coat of arms. It's the coat of arms because her arms what pitches the tent. When you look at the sky goddess Nut, it's her arms, her legs, her body's what pitches the tent. She is the canopy. So when you look at the bee goddess and you outline her, you get the arch. It's the same concept. And you can see that the bee goddess is nothing but the coat of arms, and the Moorish shield there you can see, and right there to the right of him is the Alpha Phi Alpha crest or Alpha Phi Alpha coat of arms, and that one you can clearly see the bee goddess's wings formed up, and a knight's helmet where her head would be. And you can also see where her arms is spread out, that the A5A crest has like some type of emblems poking out there to symbolizes her spreaded arms. And you can see it goes down into a triangle point representing the bee goddess's stinger. And the stinger is like a spiral down, representing that underworld when you spiral down the drain or you funnel, okay, or funeral. Remember, fun is the root word of funeral, because during this time when you transition and you slid down that spiral, that black hole at the center of the earth, because it was said by many that your soul will be magnetically attracted to the mother at the center of the earth. And it's like sliding down a spiral slide. We see that they do this type stuff in the movies. When people die, they show their soul going down like a black hole type slide. Well, this is that stinger that you see on a bee goddess. You see our ancestors' cosmology tied into their afterlife journey as well. There was nothing separate of the cosmos. So they took their trips in the afterlife on the same place they took their trips on in life. There's a spiritual meaning to everything that's physical, basically. This type of thinking makes living more fruitful. It shows you that there's nothing vain about what we call spirituality. There's nothing mythological about the spirit. What I'm telling you now ties the spirit into the physical. When you look at ancient cosmology with the great mother being at the center, just as the mother is that plays the center role of life of every human. This is very symbolic when we talk microcosm, macrocosm, but you can see more symbolism from your celebrities when we talk about the bee goddess. There's a group here called the Bee Gees. And as you can see, they spell their name B-E-E, dealing with the bee goddess. Now, this artwork is a dead giveaway when we talk about the cosmic womb and that darkness, because this cover is just simply their faces emanating out of that darkness like the sun emanates from the night sky. It's nothing but the Madonna and child. Okay, it's all cosmology. The night sky would be the mama and the child would be the sun, or the sun would be the sun. The sun can't sit behind the night sky. The night sky watches the sun shine from above. Okay, the night sits behind the day. Really, all there is nighttime. The sun makes a circuit and creates day. And it's a local light source. But if you take it away, all that it exists is night. Really, night is all there is. Night is where all emanate from. That's why you close your eyes to create. You close your eyes to sleep. And you eventually close your eyes when you transition. This artwork is very revealing with the black and gold and the cosmic womb, the darkness, the name being the Bee Gees, and the doggone album title being The Woman in You. You're talking about accessing the God part of yourself, but you don't want to say God part because that's what breeds ego. The term God is a patriarchal term that triggers ego in the soul by default. It was used to create a type of ruler that rules out of fear and domination. So when we talk domination, the root word of it is dome. Whoever governs the mental or government dominates under the dome. To do that, you must hijack the code of the dome. What is that? That's the Arch of the Covenant. That's Nut. Not the Ark of the Covenant. That's the BS patriarchal lie that keeps you away from the divine feminine, away from the mother nature. Nut is mother nature. Everything emanates from that night sky, from the darkness. Okay, the darkness behind your eyelids is no different than that darkness you looking out at when your eyes is open, that's out there beyond the stars. It's the same darkness. It's where everything exists. It's the Alpha and Omega. So to dominate means to hide the divine feminine or the sovereignty that comes along with Mother Nature, because when all beings are connected to the earth, we are fruit-based, plant-based, and that's very abundant on the earth. The early humans were able to eat certain plants that will hurt us today. I believe that wasn't too many plants we weren't able to digest, and that we were very green people. When women were gardeners and this earth were ruled by women. Remember, women are still the number one gardeners today. My grandma stayed in the garden, okay? Women are connected with the plants. You go in that kitchen, you see all kind of spices. They know what each one is when they go in the grocery store, despite it being 200 different type herbs and spices. You got to see reality and see the traits of women today and tie them into the ancient world and the mythos to see their divine role and why women are so suppressed today and forbidden to speak in the church. They're being treated like crap in the Middle East and Egypt, where so many people worship Egypt, but you see how the women being treated there. It all started under those first pharaohs and male patriarchy. So part of understanding ancient cosmology is understanding the Great Mother, which sits at the center of it all. Now, when you say center, you're saying Zen-ter. Zen is meditation when your body forms the anchor-like mound position, dealing with the pyramid, dealing with, again, the cosmos, which is a tent or arch, nut. No matter if you want to make this arch a pyramid or a dome, it's the same concept. Remember that the alphabet A is the arch itself, and it's the alpha, it's the beginning. And remember that this A can be a dome or an angle, a sharp cornered angle or dome. It's all still 90 degrees. So think sacred geometry and see the oneness of all these symbols. And I haven't got back to Michael Jackson yet for a reason. You still need to get familiar with this X with the line, the B goddess being the coat of arms. Wanted to make this video different than the first one and go deeper into the sacred geometry and occult side of it all, because I basically touched on the New World Order conspiracy side and as it did with the political aspect with Tupac. He's no different than Michael with the control over the masses, and they were using their voice to awaken the people, so they had to be silenced. But I'm showing you the symbolism and the black and gold and the bee goddess and the Kanunga for a reason, because if you look at this, we all know that the bee is a revered symbol in Freemasonry. It's actually the symbol of Freemasons. I just told you what it is. That bee is no different than that compass and square. That compass and square is the cosmos, the arch part of it at the top being nut, bent over. Again, that arch can be a triangle or a dome. In this case, it's a six-pointed star. It's all the same thing, as above, so below, making your yoni at the middle. Now, that other inverted part of the compass at the bottom represents the Earth square plane. If you can picture that making a square, draw that bottom part all the way around and make a square, and you can see it's the Earth plane enclosed with the arch, and that G would be the North Pole. They call that the G spot. We dealing with magic here. That's the G spot. That's where it happens at. The alphabet G itself is nothing but a spiral dealing with this divine feminine energy, this cosmic womb. You will see that spiral at the center of a lot of ancient cosmologies. It became the Milky Way in heliocentrism to hide this, but as you can see in this Mayan cosmos here, they have the mother goddess with that spiral actually at the bottom of her base, representing that bee stinger or that underworld journey, and the center being the North Pole with the mother. So again, this stuff was represented in many beautiful ways, figurines and different arts. You got your Venus statues and your different figurines with just the mother with her arms raised, representing cosmology. So now that we sort of familiar with the bee goddess and everything, now we're gonna get into Michael Jackson, because I showed y'all this beautiful art of the Dogon cosmos here. X marks the spot. This handwork metal of the Dogon tribe. You can see that it's a bird right there by the mama's face, because she's often represented as that sacred bird. Remember that I told you earlier that dove in Christianity, that A5A bird is the same thing, y'all. If you have to replay this, do so. X marks the spot when you look at this Dogon cosmos with Mama Amma at the center, with X marking the spot. And we go back to this Dropbox collage. Now you guys can tie everything together and kind of let your mind tie it all together, okay? Trust me, it will happen on a subconscious level. The symbols will start jumping out at you when you start walking about in your world. Something I want to point out to you is something on a deck of cards called a spade. As you can see in this Jay-Z artwork here, the spade that he's forming, we all familiar with a spade. But basically the spade is nothing but the yoni. As you can see in this collage with Michael Jackson here in the bottom left corner, that would be considered a spade, which is a form of the divine feminine. In India culture, they represent the mother in the form of the yoni mudra. You form a yoni with your hands when you meditate, and you also sit in an anchor type position. Now, when I said 10 is Zen, that's something you want to keep in mind when we say that women represent the number 10. They are the diamond, which is the diva mound or the dia mound, the diamond. When we say 10, 10 is the root word of tent, because it's the formula of the triangle when we deal with sacred geometry. And this is very divine because the Trinity basically is the triangle. And we know the sacredness of the Trinity. Ma'at is basically the Trinity, or the capital T, or the Thor's hammer, which brings order. If you look at Egyptian cosmology, you see she restored order in the creation of the cosmos, and she sustains order. So in court, they bang a hammer which shapes like a capital T, or the goddess Ma'at. She is the hammer that brings order in the court. The robe is worn to represent the divine feminine as well. So she is the capital T for truth, and that T is the tree of life. So when you look at these alphabets, they tell a story. That T is a symbol of balance. It has a pole, and in each side balancing a scale. So the capital T is nothing but Ma'at balancing the scales. It's the Thor's hammer that's banged for truth. All of this stuff originate from somewhere. But back to the yoni, because this is another way you can represent the mother. Again, if you take a capital T and outline it, you'll always get a triangle or a trinity angel. All of this stuff ties in together, guys. So the T is the triangle, is Ma'at, is the tree of life, the trio of life, the trinity of life. The tree is the tree, meaning the TRI is the TREE as well. It's also the THREE, meaning the three. And that three is the trident of Mama Kali. It's all the same, guys. Remember, three is Trinity. It's the trident. They gave it to the devil to hide all of this. Remember, the devil wear the horns. Who wear the horns? The great mother wear the horns. Remember, all of the moon goddesses wear the horns. So I'm giving you back the occult practices that's being hidden behind closed doors. They're using this against you. It's Mother Nature, which is a divine intellect and an ever-present consciousness, meaning that the same force that's controlling the movement of the sun and moon is responsible for making your heart beat, is responsible for your body healing on its own if I cut you. It's an intelligence inside of everything, even the dirt. When you put a seed in it, it knows what to do. It knows to grow a tree. We can't escape this intelligence. It's all around you, and if you fail to tap into it, it will be used against you. So back to dealing with this symbolism, because this is kindergarten when it goes to meditation and even starting your journey in the occult and tapping into those dark areas and losing your fears. First of all, you got to get familiar with these symbols to even redefine your world and take the fear away, and understand that what they're doing behind closed doors is what you need to be doing behind closed doors, casting your intent into that darkness for good purposes. And the more of us do that, the more their matrix will be destroyed in a spiritual way, which will manifest itself in a physical way. Because like I told you, nothing is separate. Spirituality and physicality isn't separate. This is what they know. And they know if they can manipulate spiritual matter, it will manipulate physical matter. Everything that happens in the physical realm is just an echo of the spiritual. So those manipulating that dark realm is controlling the physical world that you see because of what's done in secret or in the darkness. So this is very deep. I want to stay on Michael Jackson, but basically what I'm telling you is what I think Michael Jackson knew. If he didn't know all of what I knew, he knew the basics to awaken humanity. He knew the basics to awaken the masses. And he was killed for that. Now back to the yoni here on the bottom left, which represented of the great mother, the cosmic womb. It's the spade. And so when we look at Jay-Z here with the spade, it's not just they said, okay, Jay-Z, we just gonna use a spade to put on your artwork for some reason. We think a spade look good. No, everything is a meaning to them, and they're always talking over your head. So now I'm giving you knowledge so that can stop, so you can know what they know. The next picture we're looking at here is, again, X marks the spot. You see Michael Jackson, Beyonce up there in the black and gold, symbolic of the bee goddess again, the black and gold and the X marking the spot. You can compare that back to our beautiful Dogon art right here. So the X would cross right where the heart is, because earth is heart. When you rearrange the words earth, you get heart. And all of this cosmology, like I said, the earth is not a planet. The earth is one aspect of the cosmos. It's the two-dimensional aspect, or the Geb aspect, which is the plane. At the center of that, the whole structure is being emanated from, just like a pineapple growing from the stalk, from the center outwards, bursting outward with life. Think of fruit. Fruit starts from the stalk and it bursts out with its meaty flesh that we bite into, and we throw the core away into the ground, which grows another one, because that's the life, the stalk, the center. So everything is emanating from the center, just like life is being pumped all throughout the body from the heart. And if you stop that, the entire thing falls. It's being emanated from the center, from Mama Amma, when we deal with a macrocosm, cosmological aspect. And the heart of the human would be the microcosm, biological aspect. But just to switch back to Mama Amma here, X marking the spot, and we comparing it to Beyonce and Michael here, you think these parallels are by coincidence, and that Beyonce being her name and all of the bee goddess rituals. And you got two celebrities wearing this type dress at two different times, and they both are aware of the same thing. One decided to speak out about it, the other one did not. So think about it. Tupac is dead for talking too much. Jay-Z is still alive. There are many celebrity women that died for talking too much. Beyonce still alive and well, doing good, flossing these symbols right in front of the ignorant, talking over their head. X marks the spot, the earth being the drop box. When Jay-Z says that it means dynasty, yes, now it does, because again, to dominate, you have to take control of the dome. You have to break the covenant with the people and disconnect them from the mother. It's the arch of the covenant that protects us. The night sky and all of the stars are inside of Nut. And the ancestors knew that they had no worries of cataclysms, that the creator was intelligent. But the people who rule you today rule you out of fear. Cosmological cataclysms, and this is what give their gods control. This is what keeps the fear in your subconscious and keep their programs and budgets going, because you pay them to take that fear away. So since you are brainwashed with their ideology, they rule over you and they dominate, because you have no idea of the dome, the arch, the mother goddess, the real covenant, which is Nut. You broke that. So when you break that, you find yourself floating around in their make-believe universe, so far away from the truth and Mother Nature. Now I can get deeper into that, but that's going to be future videos. I'm just going into that now, showing you that Michael knew. Look at this thing. You can see black and gold, X marking the spot. This type dress, it will cross right over the heart where Mama Amma would be. All right, so we got to move on here again. The X with the line is nothing but the cube if you outline it, just like you see in this picture here. So all of the Saturn moon matrix crap is just more fear to throw you away from this cosmic code, which simply is in everything. It's in the cantaloupe. This X with the line, when you outline it, forms a cube, okay? Just like you can find this X with the line inside of a cantaloupe, inside of the core of basically every fruit. And you can see that the meaty flesh of that fruit is emanating from this core, which supports this structure. Not only emanating from the center, but the very fruit itself is being supported and stabilized by the center. So you see this line down the center of the cube, and the X is forming those angles which supports the cube and form the cube. This is the whole Saturn thing. They want to scare you so that you don't go researching, because truth ain't scary. Truth is maybe scary at first based on the initial shock, but it's liberating. Once you know it, you glad you know it. The scary thing is looking back saying, man, when I was a sheep and didn't know. X with the line is the cube, or what they call the X box. You looking at it now, Mama Callie, she pitches the tent. Remember that this cube is also the yoni. If I remove these X with the line, you can see it's just another shield. It's the shield, it's the yoni, it's your protection. The coat of arms, it's all of that. And I'm gonna be doing many videos in the future to get y'all open to see deep into your world, into these symbolism, because it does increase awareness and intuition, increases speech, and so much more, meditating on these symbols and this sacred geometry. It also lets you see every time these elites doing something in movies or on TV or whatever with the symbolism, you're gonna notice it right off the bat. Nothing's gonna be hidden from you, and that's the whole thing about the occult and the secret societies, is to hide all of this stuff via the symbolism. But what I'm doing is giving you all of this stuff. Many people say, how he know? Research, people. Nothing is hidden to those who research, and no one invests like those who investigate. So don't have fear of little archons and Saturn, moon, matrix. All of that is deception, spookism. You being indoctrinated into another layer of deception, because when you make it all the way out, it's refreshing, and you see Mother Nature was being hidden by a bunch of dumb talking, dumb crap of people guarding Saturn, moon, matrix gates and stargates for the soul and all this crap. Okay, nothing has dominion over your soul but you. The moment you be ignorant and be ruled over by fear based on that ignorance, you forfeit your own dominion over your soul, and you let someone else dominate because you breaking the covenant with the mother. You telling the mother, you ain't stable, Mother Nature. I'ma trust these men, and I'ma be scared as hell based on the ideology men giving me, and ignore nature's stability. So that's how you break the covenant, by accepting fear doctrines. Mother Nature is stable. They hate those who have a stable mind. They love the sheep they got running around like chickens with their head cut off. Fear, fear, fear in every video got the people in panic mode. Okay, because one of their deities of pandemonium was Pan, the goat god. And y'all running around worshiping that god when you give into the energies of panic, which plagues the conscious communities. Knowledge is refreshing and liberating. It makes you brave. All right, so just to stay on subject and deal with some more symbolism with Michael Jackson, when we talk Saturn, we're talking balance. The god of Saturn is nothing but a patriarchal form of Ma'at. The Saturn is nothing but a planet that symbolizes balance, because it's a lance ball. When you say balance, you say ball lanced. When you lance a ball, when you take a circle and draw a radius in the middle, you make half, you make balance, ball lance. And you will see this as nothing but the tree of life concept, the snake that splits the tree equally. Saturn being a deity that has the disc surrounding him with his arms stretched like Ma'at, symbolizes balance or ball lance. The 0 and the 1 represents the ball lance, or the binary code 10. Remember, it goes back to 10. 10 is the binary code, the female, the diamond, the diva. You put that diamond on her hand. 10 is Zen. You meditate to go back to that darkness, that womb. And the fact that Masons are hiding all of this stuff, the fact that their symbols is the bee, which is the bee goddess, and old George here have on his burial stone a Masonic compass and square. And I just wanted to show you that this country was founded and still being run by Freemasons, guys. And again, it's not limited to race. because one of the most notorious Freemasons within that society who've done so much for those guys is King James. And he was a black man. Remember that King James was black. Remember that Christianity started amongst black people and the corruption of it started amongst black people, and that the Bible is still the #1 book used by Prince Hall Freemasons. Please, black people, open your mind. Please, white people, open your mind and understand that they got us divided by black and white while they united by green. There's only two races, haves and have-nots. People that's initiated into the secrecy and the secret societies, and those who are not. I am your brother, and we all must work together, guys, because the people at the top, they have a hideous agenda for your soul. They not only control every aspect of physicality, but they're making technology to even control the soul after death. And we must wake up. I'm not for fear-mongering. I'm for giving knowledge that'll make you into a brave soul that will have no fears. None. But we got to move on. What I'm showing you about Saturn is that Michael Jackson was aware. If you can see in this artwork here, where he's showing you the Saturn symbolism. A lot of people want you to believe that some deep spooky stuff again with archons guarding matrices by the moon and all of this crap. I taught about it. Check out those videos. You can go back, see an old brother Sanchez getting his pseudo on. But now I'm giving you the simple truth. This is just balance or ball lanced. The planet Saturn being surrounded by a ring. I told y'all Earth is Saturn. You're in Saturn. The ring is Antarctica. You're surrounded by a ring. There's nothing to fear. At the center of this is not some Saturn hexagon. They say at the center of the North Pole on Saturn is a hexagon, and this is the Saturn moon matrix hex. But really, you're in Saturn. Earth is Saturn, the ball lance, the binary code, the cosmos, with the mother at the center. She is the hex, the one that was cursed. The women are cursed. They even give teachers apples today to remind them of that garden story when they was cursed, but that's just mythology. What happened in history was women fell from power with the rise of sophisticated tools and male showmanship and ego. It's still dominant in the Middle East today, guys. Even in our society, the women are put in positions where they're more glorified for their body, their marketing tools, as opposed to divine creatures who are the mothers of humanity. So we got to understand the sacredness of the woman to understand the sacredness of Mother Nature when we deal with the ancient cosmology and the Great Mother. And also the attitudes humans should have toward one another when we deal with the beehive, with shapes like the mound or Zen or the diamond, the meditation position, the anchor, the bees with the queen bee at the center. You think of their politics. They practice the golden rule, and we call it the golden rule based on the bees and the golden honey and the way everything is governed around the storing and producing of that honey. And all of the bees serve the queen, and the queen serve the bees by producing life, just like the relationship we should have with Mother Earth. It's the golden rule with microcosm, with the earth and humanity, and with us, with each other, as you can see those bees working together with one goal. Also, when we think about the structure of the hive being the mound shape, being the dome shape, being the temple shape, the mosque shape, think about how humans are able to congregate in these places and live out the golden rule. People in church are so nice. People in their sanctuaries are so nice, but when we leave them, we go to war and we create hell based on what we've been programmed under those domes. So we are able to have order in order to serve an evil agenda. We carry out chaos in orderly fashion, so to speak, order out of chaos. The Masons have that symbol for a reason. And remember, the Saturn thing is nothing but them giving you literal Earth cosmology of the ancients, but instead of the mother at the center, they're giving you this hex to be scared of. They want you to be scared of the mother to keep you away from your true spiritual science. Remember, they took the trident and the horns and gave it to Satan, the serpent, to desecrate the mother. But we know the trident and horns are still sacred in many tribal cultures. So why would it be evil? It's not. Don't listen to the people who've always been lying to you. I'm giving you back ancient stuff that they desecrated to keep you away from it. They shroud this stuff in fear, and when they do it, you don't want to deal with it. So Michael Jackson here in this picture is telling you just what I'm telling you. Balance, ball, lance. Don't get carried away with the Saturn spookism. That's BS. You can see that he named this thing escape. You escape by going into that dark place. You escape physically by going to the North Pole, taking that trip actually, literally, geographically on Earth, just like the ancestors did. What's there is something very magical. I know this. I believe every Mason take that trip in their life. And I'm going to have a whole future presentation on Masons. And I have been doing some research that's going to blow you guys away. Because what I've researched is that Masons come in all shapes and sizes, meaning when you look at Shaquille O'Neal, he's a giant. And there's also Masons that are dwarfs, and they take trips to the North Pole. Remember, at the North Pole, according to the ancients, the different types of humans were created, the giants, the dwarfs, and so on and so forth. So what if this UN treaty, this agenda to keep this secret from the masses, goes all the way to the North Pole, and there are people there enslaving people on continents that's there, because there's hidden land around the North Pole, guys. But I'm telling you what Michael Jackson knew, showing you the symbolism he used to support my claim. So when you look at the X with the line, let's get back to it, because he told you here, escape, escape. He did that on purpose. When you say escape, think of X marking the spot, and that Earth being the landscape. So when I show you the ancient cosmology with the Earth and the X marking the spot, it's the landscape of the Earth. We can say the escape. To escape this land, you go in or outwards, into the heart. When you go in or outward, you always going into the same place. If I close my eyes, I'm still going out into that darkness behind the stars. Only thing exists is the now, or the serpent on the tree. That's the mother. Remember, the serpent is the present. Rearrange the word serpent, you get present. That's the gift. All we have is the now. So anything beyond that is transitioning, just to find yourself where? In the now. No matter where you are, there you are. Remember that. So to escape is simply to be. To escape, in the terms that Michael Jackson was trying to tell you, was to go back to the mother, go back to balance. To do that, a lot of these celebrities played with what they would call conspiracy theory type symbols. So a lot of celebrities like Michael did little rituals where they covered their eyes, and even covers like the one you see here, just to send you on a journey of researching. Even if you would say Michael Jackson in the occult and he worshiping Saturn, man, with that Saturn moon matrix, that's a starting point, because that's where I was. And you're going to eventually go from there to finding out the bigger meaning, what Michael was trying to tell you, that the earth is actually an infinite plane, and X marks the spot. Balance is all there is needed to create heaven. Heaven simply means even. The H is silent. Eve in the garden represents Ma'at. The tree of life is actually Ma'at, the balancing scales. It's this divine feminine energy which brings forth balance on earth and bring us back to the golden age. So you find that out after you make it through all the fear-mongering ideologies. It's a journey. It's a quest of asking questions. And a lot of celebrities do symbolism to send many of us on that quest. And we often start in those fear-mongering communities. But if you don't stop questioning, you end up where we are today, and it's refreshing. Once you see beyond the spookism they gave you with the symbols, you find yourself into the arms of the mother. So one more person I wanted to mention who was a celebrity of interest, who was actually a president, was John F. Kennedy. We know that he was trying to do so much for the have-nots, which ultimately led to his assassination. Most of us understand John F. Kennedy's plan. There's plenty of videos out there that you can go and check out on that. We understand JFK's agenda and his reason for being assassinated, but most of us weren't aware of how much information JFK really knew. Often we think that some people know the big secrets and some people don't. Think about it. If you can find it out, all of these people who in power know about it. All of the celebrities know about it, no matter how ignorant they may appear. This is a very deep agenda, guys, and everyone's in on it. And if you think I'm lying, just think about that. Michael Jackson said everybody was in on it. So did Tupac. All of these people that die, they end up telling us, listen, guys, they are all in on it. Now, if you were smart, you would be trying to identify the they. Who are the they? Because Michael Jackson said, all I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Who is the they? You got to get beyond just saying the government, because the government is just a crowd of puppets, a smoke screen for the real power source. But one thing I wanted to point out about JFK, just to prove to you everyone is in on a secret. Most of us are just becoming flat earthers in the past year, past couple, two, 3 years. Flat earth truth just resurfacing. JFK's time goes back to 50 plus years. And here you're looking at a picture of a flat earth azimuth equidistant map behind his desk. So a lot of us been looking at this picture of JFK office for many years, but now we're putting the pieces together. Many people have saw this picture, but now that flat earth truth is around at this time, when we look at this picture, now we know what we're looking at. We're looking at a flat earth AE map. Think of how long we looked at this picture and just didn't pay attention to what type of map. We probably just thought it was just some kind of different map. Many people just didn't question it. Now that flat earth truth is around, we see what JFK knew. He had a flat earth map behind his desk at a time when nobody was talking about it as far as we know. And that's something you ought to think about, because he died. Maybe JFK was a threat to the future space programs, who knows? But he was killed because he definitely was a rebellious soul. So the powers that be that run this country, and the powers that be on every land in every country, all work together. There's only one family of have-nots. They're all related. They're all races and all shades of the same blood type. Listen, guys, what they're not telling us is only thing exists is blood type. You got to get over the surface looks, because all of us are related. There are hidden lands out there. And what you got to realize is all of us didn't originate from where they say, and that they are hiding the truth about us, keeping us divided while they all united. And it ain't about colors or nothing. It's about blood types. That's where you got all of this reptilian talk, but it ain't no little green men and monsters. It's different continents that exist besides the 7 you've been told about. So it's people that's been coming to these lands, creating societies, creating slave worlds for centuries. And they make up all shades. They are groups. They come from other lands, if you ask me. And I think they infiltrate, give people the globe, ball up the map, and make them think they spinning in space and ain't nowhere else to go. So you just stuck here. A lot of celebrities was taking trips to these other lands. A lot of people who initiated, they get to travel to and fro on this infinite plane to places you'll never get to see. They restrict the masses. They can't have everyone just traveling around an infinite plane. People will go away and go start traveling, never return. They want tabs on everybody. They don't want you to be able to say, well, screw you, I'm going to a whole nother continent over here. You'll spend your whole life searching for that right place where you want to be. If you don't like where you at, you would actually have that choice. And the whole act of traveling, finding that place, taking the quest would be fun, just adventuring. There's fruit trees and fresh water everywhere, so you're not worrying about that. So this is the way the earth was until we were restricted with fake space programs, because space really mean land, literal space, real estate. That's the space program, the hiding of extra land, all right? Extraterrestrial has nothing to do with a green man. Extraterrestrial mean extraterrestrial, extra earth. That's extra earth. The map is bigger than they're showing you. And this is what flat earthers know. This is what Michael Jackson know. This is what a lot of Masons know. Masons call themselves traveling men. Why? They're able to go to places you'll never go. Don't you know some of the most beautiful Masonic lodges are in Antarctica? A place where you're not even taught to go. In fact, if you tell someone you want to go there, they'll laugh at you. They don't even advertise these places, yet presidents are keep going to Antarctica and celebrities are keep going, and there's Masonic lodges there. Antarctica is the gateway to other lands. They are the lords of the rings, and this is what I believe a lot of celebrities knew, and they were assassinated. So I tie this in with Michael Jackson. I tie this in with JFK. I tie this in with a lot of people. I don't think every celebrity and every person that died is a real rebel for the people. I think a lot of these people fake their deaths just to throw the people off in some kind of way to sell some type propaganda, and that they get to go away and establish themselves on another land. That can be a possibility. You know, there's a lot of people who did awesome jobs for the elite and they were martyrs. And the fact that they were martyrs reinforced some of the elite's ideologies. For example, Phil Schneider, supposed to have been a whistleblower. Now that we all are flat earthers and no aliens are fake and space travel is fake, think about it. Phil Schneider was many of our heroes, but he was a so-called martyr who reinforced the alien agenda. He was connected with many snakes and agents like Nancy Leader and Zachariah Stitchin. All of these agents. I did an entire presentation on Phil Schneider. You really need to go back and check all of these things out. Explore the channel, guys, okay? Because I'm making reference to things that I did videos on. So check them out. Again, all of these people weren't martyrs for the people. I believe Phil's somewhere on another island. And he's reinforced that agenda in the minds of millions who believe in aliens today without ever seeing them, because their only proof is, well, Phil Schneider died because aliens killed him. And that's a story that they solidified based on faking his death. Check out my video on Phil Schneider. Brought that up to say that's another way we can look at these celebrities. But I don't think Michael Jackson fall in the Phil Schneider category, because he really stood up for the people just like Tupac. And just to wrap it up, to show y'all that these guys are Masons, here's a picture of Jay-Z at a Masonic meeting. And this is a picture of Michael Jackson's murderer, Dr. Conrad Murray. He was on 60 Minutes. You know, after you murder someone, you're not going to be on 60 Minutes. If Brother Sanchez just murdered someone, I would be under a jail. Yet this guy's on 60 Minutes so he can get the sympathy from the public, so that when they give him his smack on the fucking wrist, no one says anything. They shrouded in conspiracy to take away from the fact that this man you're looking at murdered Michael Jackson. How can I prove that the guy you're looking at is an agent who was hired to kill Michael Jackson? Well, look at the picture here. This picture here shows you that Michael Jackson's murderer, his doctor, was also a Mason, Prince Hall Mason, and they gave him involuntary manslaughter. He got basically a smack on the wrist. When he was given his sentencing, he stood up in a Masonic posture, and that posture basically symbolizes that the mission was completed. Job well done. This was all a setup. This guy's a Mason, and he murdered Michael Jackson. And here's Paris Jackson, Paris Jackson tweeted, "If you only knew the truth." She tweeted here, "Secret society is not really secret if you know what you're looking for." You can read this for yourself. I'm gonna flash them across the screen, but I'm gonna speed through this now. Here again, you can see that the police badge has your bee goddess symbolism, your crest and shield symbolism. Just wanted to point that out because we know that Shaq was a police for a while, and that the police academies are a secret society within themselves, and most police are Masons. So Shaq is no different. I do believe these people are hiding a bigger secret than we'll ever know, guys. Because Shaq had a video game with a lot of secret symbolism in it. It was called Shaq Fu. And when you go back and look through that game, you see a lot of symbolism there. You see him here with George Bush. He's skull and bones. We know Shaq is a Mason, okay? He's a proud Mason, spoke out and mocked flat earth. And he's probably been to Antarctica. Remember I told you about the yoni, and that's nothing but the spade. Also, you can see that here with Jay-Z throwing up what's called a dynasty. It's been fakery going on. Your whole world is staged. We know 9/11 was a hoax. We know that Bin Laden was a CIA member whose name was Tim Osman. I mean, how much do you need to see to know that everything is fake? And until you realize that you're living in the Truman Show and that everything is fake, the world they give you, every last bit of it is fake, and until you ignore it, start back from a clear foundation and start to redefine and reinvestigate the world for yourself and undo all of the deception, you will always be ruled over by deceivers, and you will always be blind to the truth. Michael Jackson was aware of the bee goddess, and if you look at this album cover here, it's from an album entitled Dangerous. And you can see that inside of that middle door is a conveyor belt with a bunch of trash all going to the globe. The globe is upside down. Michael is telling us some on this picture, that conveyor belt going to a globe earth. And above that globe earth is the words dangerous. I believe Michael Jackson was telling us just how dangerous this heliocentric mentality is, because it breeds the type of zombie that you see on Earth today. People are killed for this globe, y'all. And they've killed, many people have died in the name of the gods that exist as a result of this heliocentric cosmos. Guys, I can't stress enough how much heliocentrism contributes to male ego that plagues the world. And you're talking about war gods, sun gods, and you live in a world of war where it's easier to kill your fellow human than love your fellow human. And that love is associated with the mother goddess, the divine feminine creator of this cosmos, not these male gods that destroy everything and rule out of ego and fear. It creates the type of humans that perceive the creator as a chaotic idiot. Subconsciously we do, and we make excuses for it when really this is not the nature of the creator. You're in a stable cosmos. It's being hidden from you. And if they can create the chaos in your mind, they can create the chaos in your reality. And by doing so, they can rule out of chaos. That was the whole plan of the New World Order, because nature had everything in order from the beginning. For you to create a new world order, you have to create chaos, then create a false sense of order that you are in today. But this world is not civilized. Civilization ended in the garden. Civilization ended in the golden age. If you think the world you live in today is civilized, ain't nothing civilized about today's world. You just used to chaos. So the New World Order is what we've been in while they got y'all waiting on it. They playing a time game and they're years ahead of you. You will die waiting on something that you've been in already. You're going to stay in it until you realize it. So guys, I want you to pay attention to the collage, all right? You see in the top left corner, Michael Jackson saying blood on the dance floor. He's stepping on that checkered plane that you see the Masons standing on, representing this infinite plane that they have control over. They're the lords of the rings, the ones who dominate under the dome. Michael Jackson was dancing on that floor. One thing I wanted to point out about his Dangerous cover is you can see these two little chairs on each side of his head crown. Here it is, head crown reading Michael Jackson, and to the left and right of there is like a throne with those hands sticking out. And what I wanted to say is that's the bee goddess, guys, in the form of a chair. In the form of this chair, you can see her wings curling up, and you can see the arms spread out on Michael Jackson artwork here, and it's in the form of, again, these two chairs on each side, but that's the bee goddess. This whole layout is made in the form of the Trinity, or the goddess portal, where you have a door to the left, door to the right, and then the main entrance being at the center. Again, that's where the mama resides. This whole layout, the sacred geometry, is the X with the line. If you look at your main angles, being the chairs on each side and the small doors at the bottom forming your box, and then you have your poles straight down the middle. Okay, that's your X with the line on this Dangerous cover. Remember that she was poison, Mama Kali. This X with the line became the poison symbol. They told you in the music that girl is poison because that symbol is Mama Kali. But here in Michael Jackson artwork, you see the bee goddess, you see the goddess portal or the Trinity. Remember, the X chromosome is the original Trinity. That is the atom. You can see that on his bee goddess's thrones on each side, he has that elephant, which is revered in Hindu culture. That's the elephant that's revered in ancient cosmology. Remember, the root word is El, dealing with that god El, who represents Saturn or balance. You see each elephant facing at each other representing yin yang, or what you would perceive as good and evil, which is simply that duality which creates balance. You want to always be centered, neutral, like the neutron at the center of a cell. Just wanted to show you this thing because above the Dangerous sign, you can see all of the animals up there. Above the globe deception, you can see the children holding the dinosaur bone. And I do believe Michael Jackson was aware of the dinosaur deception, because if you look at the hand that's holding the boy, it's kind of like a damaged hand of the enemy of some sort. And it's like it's holding the child, which is a puppet, because the child is brainwashed with this dinosaur concept. Is what creates the whole foundation of heliocentrism. One of the main stories of current heliocentrism is the dinosaur. There's a lot Michael is saying in this artwork. I challenge you all to explore it for yourselves. I just hope that you guys give me the thumbs up and subscribe to my new channel, Bro Sanchez Live, because I'm going to be doing a lot of live presentations concerning ancient cosmology and the mother goddess. And at the end of those presentations, I'll be opening up the lines for Q&A. So if you're interested in free live presentations and asking me questions at the end, then we'll be doing that. I'll also be playing some of my old videos live on that channel and taking questions at the end. So we're going to be getting a lot of lessons, answering questions in detail, and we can have our slides up, and we're going to be getting busy. So if you like that idea, make sure you get in the description area and subscribe to Bro Sanchez Live, which is my second channel and backup channel right now. So for me to have 30,000 plus subs over here on Bro Sanchez TV and less than 5,000 subs on Bro Sanchez Live shows me that a lot of you guys must not be aware of that second channel. You're missing a lot of great content over there. You're missing flat earth debates. Go over there, check out my debates. If you want to debate me, all of my debates and live sessions go down on Bro Sanchez Live. So subscribe to Bro Sanchez Live because you are missing out. Go ahead and subscribe, guys. Remember to hit the like button and share this video. Shout out to my family of patrons and shout out to everyone that support Bro Sanchez, whether it be a financial gift or you just paying me your attention. I love all of you and I really appreciate your time and your effort in helping me free the minds of the sheeple and show them that we are being deceived and all we got is each other. We're in it together. So with everything being said, I'm gonna let y'all go. Peace and much love.